G'day guys, Mac with the Outer Circle. I have received a ton of requests to talk about the price of Shadowspear. I've got a bit of a problem here, because I think I've covered price so thoroughly on this channel, explained the cost of plastic, wages, molds, shipping, all in previous videos. Worked it out to something like 20 cents to make a sprue, $1 per box to cover the cost of the mold, about another $3 per box to cover the cost of wages, about another $2.40 to cover the cost of shipping to anywhere in the world, and then they sell said box for about $70. And that $3 to cover wages included not just the guy running the injection molding machine, but also the guy upstairs who helps to design the model. So a pretty comprehensive breakdown. And, yeah, I feel we really looked at prices and said, clearly they're taking the piss. What's another approach I can take? Well, I've already done things like the comparison of Hate with Shadowspear. Shadowspear, fun game. The format of the two was very similar, which is why I chose them, as opposed to picking, say, I don't know, Dark Imperium. Dark Imperium, which is basically 40k, is completely different to Hate. Pretty much close on price point, but very different as a game. So the two don't really work as a comparison, whereas I felt Shadowspear and Hate, which play very, very similar, tile-based movement with proximity, support from units, individual cards that have unit stats and buffs and that sort of thing, very similar games. And I will look at both of them more in the future. What's another comparison I could do? Well, instead of trying to compare other manufacturers' models, because there's always that crowd out there who says Games Workshop stuff is just better. It happens in everything, okay? There are people out there who love Lamborghinis. Oh, fuck, Ferraris are terrible, Lamborghinis are the best. Some people, four-wheel drive community, it's always a toss-up between Nissan Patrols and Toyota Land Cruisers here in Australia. Dual cab utes, it's all about Toyota Hiluxes, Ford Rangers, maybe BT50s, D-Maxes, even the Colorado's in there now. Nobody really likes the Navaros for off-road. That's just an example of the Australian car market, of course. Cameras is another one. I'm a massive Sony fanboy. But I will admit, Canon and Nikon are equally good. I just don't like them because the mirrorless technology, the smaller cameras that Sony has, they're better for me and my needs because they're easy to transport, they're small, they're light, fantastic. But I know so many photographers who are Canon and Nikon fanboys, and they literally will not look at any other type of camera. You say to them, oh, this new Sony mirrorless, it's just got fantastic performance, you've got to try it. And they're just like, no, Nikon's better. Nikon's better. They just cannot get their head around it. Same thing happens in different countries when we look at our militaries. People might go, oh, the Abrams is a better tank than the Leopard 2, or the T-90 is better, or the T-14 Armatura, or whatever the current Russian one is they're trying to put in production. Jet planes, same thing. Eurofighter versus Rafale versus F-22. Always, there's people who love a certain brand or a certain something. Apple is another great one. Oh, Apple's so much better than Samsung because reasons. It's white. Something like that. Same thing with models. I bring out awesome models from Cool Mini or Not that were sculpted by the guy who was at one point sculpting Primarchs for Forge World. He did Mortarion, he did Lorgar, he did Callus Typhon, he did Erebus and Corferon. That was all done by Edgar Skoromowski. He then went on to sculpt all of the Hate models, and then people were going, oh, no, it's Games Workshop stuff's just way better. I was like, okay, I can't convince some people that Games Workshop's models are the same quality as everyone else's, just more expensive. Maybe I can show people what else I can buy for that sort of price. Here's a list of things I just chucked up. Some things are more expensive. I'll start with the more expensive things. $350, so about $60 more than the price I could buy Shadowspear for. I could buy 72 colours from Vallejo in a case with brushes in a starting paint set for an airbrush. All the paint a person needs to pretty much paint whatever they want for quite a long time. $60 more. That's good value. Just next to that is 2 different bundles, which together $350. I picked Australians because I'm Australian, but I could buy the entire Australian range from Bolt Action, from Warlord Games, and have quite a large and nice Bolt Action army. I picked Bolt Action because it's an up-and-coming game, and it has a huge fan base. The models are not as detailed as Games Workshop's, but there's a lot of white metal in there, as well as plastics. I think they're just a great example to use because it's another game that's out there, and it should theoretically be more expensive because it's from a smaller supplier who should have more expensive overheads per capita, per sale, but apparently they can supply a lot more miniatures. Alright, what about up in the top right there, that nice looking picture? That's the Gold Coast in Australia. Beautiful, kind of like Florida in America. Think white beaches, long pristine areas of blue water, lots of cafes and coffee shops and that sort of thing, and all the theme parks there like Movie World, Dream World, Sea World, that sort of thing. Beautiful. I could fly there for $66. 1,200 kilometers from where I live. $66. So I could fly there, stay a few nights, maybe even visit a couple of theme parks, and fly back for the same cost as Shadowspear. In the middle, that's an awning tent and an awning for a 4-wheel drive. I've got that exact one, in fact, on my car. $307. And that's not even their super special, that's just today's current special. $307. I could go camping with the family, the dog, that sort of thing. 2.5 metre tent built into the car, built-in shade, don't even have to put the tent on. Same price as Shadowspear, more or less. $17 more. Alright, what about less? Well, or on the same point. Well, for $300, or near enough to, I could buy a 115 litre bar fridge. I could buy a DeLonghi EC685R Dedica espresso machine in red. For the discerning coffee lover out there. I could also buy a Samsung Galaxy Tab S2, 32GB Wi-Fi, 8-inch screen, in black, for the same sort of price. I could buy a Sony 55-210 lens for $7 less. By the way, have it on my camera, fantastic lens. The Zeiss lenses are a bit more crisp, in my opinion, but the 55-210 is small and nice for what it is. So, great choice for those who want to do a bit of zoom work with their Sony cameras. And of course, the last thing there, I've sort of cut it off when I put the pictures together, but it's a Microsoft Xbox One, $241.22, and that's the metallic blue, I believe. It's not actually black. So, some of the things I can buy: gaming consoles, trips to tropical paradises. Well, paradise is probably a bit strong word for the Gold Coast. Trips to tropical places, bar fridges, tablets, coffee machines, camera lenses, whole armies for other game systems, cases full of all the airbrush paints in the world. Same sort of prices. Alright. What else? A week's rent in a nice house in the middle of Ballarat. There's an option. Lots of nice houses available here, actually. Lots of 2 and 3 bedroom places. Big entertaining area in this house. Ooh. That's just lovely. So, a week's rent for a lovely 2 or 3 bedroom house. Alright. What about 5-star hotel in the middle of Melbourne? with views out over the city. Site gym, restaurant. Nice looking food, very fancy schmancy, but hey, it's a 5-star hotel, what do you expect? Also has a Japanese knife store on site, so I think I'm just going to go visit this hotel just for myself. That looks like some beautiful cutlery. Yeah. So that's what you can afford for the same cost as Shadowspear. So look, I may not be able to convince someone that Cool Mini or not has equally good quality on miniatures. Okay, cool. It's a debatable point, fine. I maybe can't convince someone that the cost of shipping, taxes and things like that doesn't justify how much Games Workshop costs in Australia. Okay, fine. Maybe I can't convince someone that kids can't afford this game. They'll just turn around and say, well, the parents are buying it for them. Well, I don't know many parents who would see this as a good investment, and I'm the right age to have kids. I know a lot of people who do have kids and don't think it's a good investment, and I know very few people who do think it's a good investment. It's more that those of us who are already into it are sort of committed to it. What I can show you, though, is that the other options that are out there offer equal or better entertainment, or they'll hold their value better. It's crazy. And, you know, it's only exacerbated by things like this. On the left, in the red box, we have Chinese prices. On the right side, we have direct from Forge World and their prices. Things like Alfarius the Primarch. Yep, the quality is exactly the same as Forge World. People are kidding themselves if they think it's otherwise. I can assure you of this. Anyone who's bought from the right recasters will assure you of this. Again, there'll be that crowd out there who goes, oh, I've bought from recasters and they were terrible quality. Okay, cool. You bought from the wrong ones. Trust me. I didn't want to buy from recasts. For the longest time, literally up until the Forge World price hike, I bought legit everything. Mastodon, legit. Primarchs, legit. Thousand Suns Army, 12,000 points for it is all legit stuff. Okay? So I buy all of that legit, then they do that horrible price hike, they lose my business. Well, not very good for them, is it? The only things I've bought from them since then, well, I sort of let myself buy Sanguinius, and probably the Khan and the Lion, and that'll be it. I want to finish that Primarch collection. Because, well, if I can get them from the UK, I'm paying UK prices, which I was before, and I consider that to be fair. What they're doing now by deliberately choking and restricting the market and forcing us to pay extra, it's just greed. When I can go to China and buy the exact same quality level for 6 times cheaper, you know, they're still making a tidy profit on that, and that's 6 times cheaper, guys. They're also selling things that Forge World took out of production with Last Chance to Buy. Torsos, Ortelion Score, things like that. So they're giving me more range, more options, the prices are better, the models are equally good quality. Again, if you're buying from the right recasters, they are on par or better than Forge World. In fact, I even think there's a video out there I've done in the past where I actually have a Forge World and a recast Techmarine side by side. And it's like, hey, look, you know, these look exactly the same. So, yeah, pretty ludicrous, right? How can they charge $300 for something like Shadowspear, knowing that they're going to get undercut this heavily in other markets? It's not even the cheapest recaster. This one's just probably the best recaster that I'm showing. I think their solution, and I'm just throwing ideas out here, Games Workshop's got their head in the sand, basically. Just keep upping the prices on the products. The more expensive they are, the fanboys are so hyped, they'll just go out and they'll buy it. They won't even think twice about it. They'll just go, oh, Shadowspear looks like great value. Especially if you go and release the miniatures from it individually later on. Because then people will go and they'll look at it and they'll go, oh, You know, that tactical squad's $100 normally, but it's the equivalent of only $70 in that box set. Oh, what a deal! Is it really a loss leader? Or is it just they're making $30 less profit? Because they just up the price of the other models and it makes the starter set look like it's cheaper, you know? Again, I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas out here. Because you've got a $300 box set, it's basically you're paying like $10 a model, something like that, on average. That's painful. $10 a model, you expect a boutique model like Ortillion's Score there on the left. $10 will get you a model which you can change its head, change the backpack, change the arms, change the shoulder pads, change the weapons. But that's not what they're giving you. They're giving you plastics which are cheaper than resins, and they're not able to be reposed in that same sort of way. It's not sustainable. And I think they just increase the prices, and people, as long as they're paying it, is keeping the business afloat. Their share levels, their stock levels are actually down to where they were when they released 8th edition. And so for everyone who's saying, oh, Games Workshop's going gangbusters, they're making so much money, I'd check those share prices if I were you. The company made a heap of money after 8th edition. It went up, 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 and then it came crashing down pretty much once they did the price rises last year. And it's pretty much back to the same level it was when they released 8th edition. Because the investors have now seen through the bullshit, and they're going, well, hang on a minute, the company's not actually making that much extra money. Most of the money they're making now is probably the money they're coming out of all their video game licenses, at a guess. So, it's not just resins, by the way, that it targets. Uncle Mao, he'll cut you a deal for a Rabute Gilliman in resin, admittedly, not plastic. And it's going to cost you 1/8 of what the plastic cost is. 8 times cheaper. That's... Again, seen it in person, fantastic cast. And you know, China, they're doing excellent deals and everything, so's Russia. Russians are very interesting to talk to about the matter. Basically, they get, in their opinion, they get zero Games Workshop support over there. So they just do whatever they need to in order to play the game, and they don't care, which is an interesting mentality. So we've got a bit of a conundrum here as a community. It's either accept the prices are wrong, or accept that we're happy with it and keep going. And a lot of people are happy to keep going. Me personally, no, I'm not happy with it. I've tried to cover it, I've tried to put a bit of awareness out there for people so they can understand. How committed am I to building more armies in the future? I don't know. I've got quite a few here that I've bought over the years that I haven't even finished. I'm sorry if the sound changes, I'm looking away, but I've got a whole Solar Auxiliary army sitting behind me. I've got Veldor Tank Hunter, Melkador Infernus, a bunch of Leman Rust battle tanks and Aurochs, a whole bunch of Solar Auxiliary infantry. It's a whole army just waiting to be painted. I've got a whole bunch of plastics from Betrayal at Kelth and Burning of Prospero still yet to be built. I'm set for a while. It's only the little things I'd like to have bought along the way. When I finally do paint those miniatures, I go, oh, I want to paint Blood Angels, for example, or I want to paint Sons of Horus, or I want to paint World Eaters. And then I'll go and look on Forge World's web store, and they'll be like, oh, no torso upgrades, half the shoulder pad options are missing, half the weapon upgrade options are missing, and all of a sudden it becomes like, that's a problem. Graviton Guns is another great one. I have an Iron Hands army, Shattered Legions one. If I want to make a tactical support squad with Graviton Guns, which is one of the Iron Hands sort of abilities as a Legion, can't do it because they don't sell Graviton Guns at Forge World anymore. I'd have to buy something like Legion Breaches, and then go and find the 1 or 2 Graviton Guns. I think it's 1 Graviton Gun per 5 breaches comes in a box. So I'd have to go around and beg, borrow and steal 10 of those from the community in order to make a squad. Or I can go to China and pay $5 Australian for 10. So, you know, who's doing me the bigger favours here? They're going to say, oh, well, Forge World's the one releasing all the content. Okay, Book 8 has taken 2 years and they still can't even find where the shipping container is with it. That's a problem. The only thing the community wants from them now is pretty much the Lion, Dark Angels, the Khan, the White Scars, and of course the Blood Angels. Give us those things, and for all we care, Forge World can just fuck off at that point, because the community will take it over. We'll take over the game, we'll put out the content and the rules, because we're doing a better job of it anyway. We are. Our community FAQs are better. The community is actually out there organising events and holding tournaments and things like that, and actually getting involved in the game. Forge World's not. The Weekender was mostly just stuff for Necromunda. Yeah, there was some great Heresy releases in there. Like, let's not give them zero credit, okay? That's not fair. There was some great Heresy releases in there. But that's it, basically. After 2 years of waiting for this book, it's like, oh yeah, here's a White Scars Land Speeder. Here's a 3D render of some White Scars Terminators. Here's some rules for a couple of characters that we haven't even started work on. Here's Reldoran's model. Here's Sanguinius's model. Here's a model for some Terminators for the Blood Angels. And that's it. That's what we've got for you after all this time. Automatic Pavases for Derrideo Dreadnoughts. Vanished. Don't know when they're ever coming. Some units like Legion Seekers don't have models. There used to be Seeker specific bolt guns. They've been taken out of production, so you have to kit bash that unit together. Same with Legion Veterans. You have to use regular Legion Tactical Marines basically, because the torso options, that sort of thing, are gone. So they're making it quite hard for the players. And I get a lot of messages from people saying, hey, can you update the Let's Get Started in Horus Heresy series to sort of try and counter for the fact that, torsos aren't available anymore, shoulder pads aren't available anymore, that sort of thing. And I'd love to, guys, but I don't know what's going out of production next. So if I do an update and then a week later half my suggestions are gone, that's not going to help anyone. So there's a lot of problems right now, and price is the biggest indicator of them, because I think that big expensive box sets like this are big expensive box sets entirely for the fact that they're trying to recoup on losses, because the amount of, zero growth. Their financial report said they had zero growth in Australia. That means they finally reached that point where the prices were so ludicrous, the community has said, not interested anymore. That's a fair effort, because you think about all the stuff this community puts up with. There are people like, for example, Dark Eldar players, who put up with not getting a Codex update for 10 years. They got one in 3rd edition, then they got one in 5th edition, right at the end of it too, so it was superseded within like 6 months. Yikes. That sort of thing happens and people hung on. They were like, oh, I'm going to stick with it. There are people out there who are turning around even now and going, oh, well, they've brought back specialist games, they're listening to community. Are they? Look at how they've fuck-handed specialist games. Look at it. Look at how, when they release specialist games, then the only one they sort of seem to be getting right is the Hobbit game, because they're releasing a unit with their profile, with everything you need to know, basically, on that page or on the page next to it. And then they release something like Necromunda, and it's like, oh, well, refer to X page, Y page, Z page to find out something for your unit that's on this page. And it's like DLC for a computer game. You've got to buy Season 1, then you've got to buy, Season 2, Season 3, and you've got to buy these other books in order to make the shit you bought originally still viable. Same sort of thing goes with something like Shadowspear, where some of the cards that you might want or need come in another box, and then all of a sudden you've got to fork out that other box. That's not illegal, it's not wrong of them to do, but it's not great for us, the people who are trying to get into the hobby and buy the hobby, is it? So it's problematic. That's why I bring it up, because if we're going to have a talk about prices and that sort of thing, let's talk about all the little problems we've got going on at once here. Now, to their credit, new Chaos stuff looks good. Some of it, anyway. Others, can't say I'm the biggest fan of. Can't say I'm the biggest fan of the Obliterators or the 2 Possessed, but the rest of the box is pretty good. The Primaris Marines, I think everyone's over Primaris Marines releases at this point. Of course, there are some people who think they're fantastic and great. I'm very happy for you. Find what works for you. Doesn't work for me, doesn't work for a lot of people, especially the Xenos players. Orc players, Elder players, Necrons, Tau, you name it. They're all going, where's our stuff? And fair credit to them. The Primaris have had more Marines released since the start of 8th edition than factions like Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequins, Tau, etc. have had released in 10 years. So, of course, people are going to be a bit shitty. What do you expect? But Games Workshop, true to the form of we don't give a fuck about the community, will just go ahead with their plan. And their plan is just release more Primaris, supersede the existing Marines, and the community can just suck it up. They'll buy the product anyway. They're dumb. That's what they think. They think you're dumb. And a lot of people do exactly that. They go out, they buy it anyway. And they just prove Games Workshop right. No. I hate negative episodes. So, you know what? This week, the next episode I do, I'm going to talk about something I love instead. I think I might talk about hate, or maybe even a Song of Ice and Fire, because I've been holding on to that one for a while. I wanted to have everything painted for it before I covered it, but I got a lot of models in base coats and that sort of thing, and maybe I'll cover it anyway, because I've done like all the characters. Maybe I'll do that. Anyway, back with the Outer Circle. Sorry for the negativity in this episode, guys. I didn't enjoy it, so I doubt you will, but I had a lot of people say, can you talk about it? So I did, because I try and do what people ask me to cover. See you all next time.